You're listening to Relationships and Chill, the podcast for singles and couples about how to find and cultivate the relationship you've always dreamed of, based on trust and honest communication. Why waste your time going through the typical dating obstacle course, only to end up with drama, jealousy, and heartbreak, when you can find the love of your life and live happily ever after? So sit back, chill, and get ready to make relationships great again.
Welcome everyone to Relationships and Chill. Well, this is a very special episode, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, Relationships and Chill. This is a podcast that we created because we want to make relationships great again. Our aim is to provide the best possible relationship advice from real perspectives, just an honest dialogue between whoever I can find. But today I have a very extremely special guest. It's amazing because our relationship, the relationship I have with my guest, is the reason why I know the information that I provide works for quite a few people. But I know it works wonders because I am a product, and my relationship with this woman is a product of the information that I've learned and that I use to obtain this level of relationship. So this woman that I'm about to introduce is my woman, my wife. Today we're actually celebrating our 4th anniversary, but it's also my birthday. So today is my birthday, June the 1st, 2018. I get a chance to reflect over 36 years of life, 4 years of marriage, and I get to express those sentiments to you guys, the audience, the listening audience, for your listening pleasure. So without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to the love of my life, the person I am happily married to, madly in love with, and all the et ceteras. Elulu, or Coach Elulu is what I like to call her. So you guys welcome Coach Elulu to the show.
Hey everybody. Such a sweet introduction.
I know, baby, I know. So anyway, so much to talk about. Today we want to welcome you guys to the show, new listeners. Thank you for tuning in, listening to what we got going on. Like I said, our aim is to provide the best relationship advice for singles, for married people, people in relationships, wherever you are. I think this information applies to everyone because it really deals with taking an internal look at yourself and observing the things and the people that you're attracting, and not just the people that you're attracting, but the things that you're attracting out of people. So a lot of times we're in relationships and we're not understanding or seeing why certain people are exhibiting certain traits and characteristics towards us, but not towards other people that they may interact with. And so many times is really just reflection of what you accept, if that makes sense. It's a reflection of who you are, because what we project out is what we receive in. What we allow is what people will tend to give to us as a result of our internal dialogue. People can only do so much to the extent of what you allow them to do. So it's great to take an internal look at the things that you're experiencing in your life to get a better view of what's going on internally, the internal dialogue and the internal issues that you have yet addressed that are causing you to repeat cycles and repeat types of people that you previously said you wouldn't deal with, or they're not good for you. And so our aim is to kind of help a lot of that stuff out. But without further ado, I want to talk to you guys. Me and my woman are gonna just have an open dialogue about some things that we believe can help you or help anybody build great relationships. And we're going to talk about how we built our great relationship, because I'm not saying we have a great relationship because it's flawless or because it's completed. I'm saying it's great because we understand that we're continuously growing, and with that understanding, her growth, I have to be observant of her growth and be interested in her growth as well as her being interested in my growth. Would you say that's true, baby?
Oh, yeah.
So as we're growing as individuals, that growth can either do one or two things. It can help the relationship or it can hinder the relationship, depending on the two individuals that are involved in the relationship. Because as you lose or gain more interest in your partner, that translates into a more of a sharing environment where the two people feel as though they're contributing to the relationship. And also it gives you an opportunity to get to know that person a lot better, which keeps it fresh, because as we're changing, we're constantly growing, we're constantly becoming something and someone different. And a lot of the times people lose that observation of the other person in the relationship, and it causes them to lose sight of who they are. So they look back at each other after 5, 10, 15 years and like, who are you? They don't really know each other because they have developed two separate lives that are not inclusive of the other person. Mm-hmm. So what we try to do is express our growth to each other, and we have open communications when we have a problem or whenever we have issues or whenever we have thoughts about things. We express those things. And another thing, one thing I have observed, a couple things, but one thing I really have observed is I know a lot of my friends, they contact me when they're having relationship issues, right? And they always call me wanting to know what I think about things, how I view things, and just my perspective. And I always lead it back to them. I put the ball in their court to say, well, what are you doing about it? Or why aren't you doing this when you know that's the most obvious thing? Why aren't you talking to the person you're having a problem with instead of talking to everybody else but that person about their problem, the problem that you're having with them? So a lot of people tend to kind of steer away from the direct conflict of dealing with the person head on, as opposed to letting it out and blowing off the steam towards somebody who has nothing to do with the issue. And so I observed that, and I was like, we're not going to have that I don't want that kind of issue. I want me and my woman to have that dialogue with each other, as opposed to having it with everybody else. Because then a lot of times what happens in those situations is people become closer with the person that's outside of the relationship as opposed to the person that's inside of the relationship. Problems are really designed to help the relationship grow if you attack them and deal with them directly as opposed to dealing with other people. So what tends to happen is you have a problem with one person, with the person you're with, and you talk to your friends about it. And as you talk to your friends about it, the relationship with those friends continue to grow stronger and stronger because you trust them. They're trusting you. They know more about you. You know more about them. They're agreeing with you. And so all these different elements come together, and the relationship is with the friends are getting stronger, but the relationship with the person with the problem is getting weaker. So a lot of the times that causes a conflict within relationships, because now, you know, you got a problem with the person that you're with, the person who doesn't know, or who the person has a problem with. Say a husband has a problem with his wife, but he talks to his female friends or other friends about the problems that he has with his wife. So now his relationship with the female friends are growing stronger, but his relationship with the woman that he's directly dealing with is growing weaker. So that becomes a problem between the woman, the wife, that looks at the friends as more of a confidant than her. And that becomes a problem. And a lot of women don't like their husband, or men don't like women having relationships with men, because people understand that dynamic. That if you have an issue, more than likely you're going to go to the person you feel more comfortable with sharing that type of information with. And a little bit, the more that you share with the person, the more comfortable you get with them, and the more you start sharing, to where you're sharing real personal details about that person, the husband or the wife, the significant other that you're in a relationship with. And that becomes a major problem in relationships. Correct, baby?
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm doing a lot of the talking, but,
I know.
but trust me, she has a lot to say because we've been through a lot in our relationship. We've been through a whole lot. We've been through everything pretty much you can possibly imagine, but we've managed to keep it self-contained because we set upon the ideology that we were going to confide in one another as opposed to other people.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have that dialogue, any dialogue, the hardest dialogues you can have. We wanted to we've had them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it makes everything else a little bit easier because it's like, okay, I know you.
Right.
And I think that open dialogue that you have in the relationship opens up another layer to the person that you decided to be with.
Mm-hmm.
It causes you to really know the person, their internals, their real true way of being, the true person. You know, you get to know the true person, not the facade, not the person that's perpetuated out in public, not the person that they want you to believe they are.
Right.
The truth makes you free, for one thing, but the truth also makes the other person free to love you the way that you need to be loved.
Right.
And so, and that's very important because I think a lot of people don't love, this is probably a little touchy, but a lot of people I don't think a lot of people are really in love. I don't think most people that are in relationships, I really don't think that they're in love. I think they're in fear of losing that person. There's a very thin line. I think there's a very thin line between fear and love.
I definitely agree with that. I can see that. Yeah.
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 I mean, I think like most people that I talk to, they'll rather deal with the stuff they know they shouldn't deal with, and they tell all their friends, I ain't gonna put up with this, and I ain't gonna do this, and I ain't gonna do that. But then they be right back with the person like a few weeks later after everything blew over. Mm-hmm. But I think it's more so the idea of the person that they're in love with. And so they try to change them into their idea of how they should be. And so the fear of first of all, not being able to change that person into the idea that they believe they should be is one problem. But also not having the idea of how the person should be or how they should be in love with that person. So you can have an idea of like, okay, we're going to be married and live here and have this many kids and, you know, we're going to build an empire together. Woo-woo.
Yeah.
And then that person does something that's contrary to what they believe a person in a relationship should do. And now all of a sudden they like telling all their friends and they're heartbroken and all that kind of stuff. But then like a few weeks later, they're right back with them. So what do you think about that, baby?
I feel like they do love one another, but like you were saying, that barrier of fear, like in order to actually be in love with that person, you have to unveil all the masks and
you got to peel the onion.
Right. And for a lot of people, they haven't even done that for themselves, you know, like accepted their authentic self. So that would be like a good first step because they don't even know how to express that or share that with their
or
partner.
even receive that.
Yeah, that's true. Or
so
even
how can
receive
you
that.
yeah,
like
how
you can't like how can you recognize it too as well?
Yeah.
If you haven't even recognized it within yourself.
You wouldn't even be able to receive that from another person because until you do the self-work on yourself and really dig into yourself and find out why do you continuously attract these types of problems or these types of people or why these types of situations keep happening to you. Mm-hmm. Most people just look at it like they point the finger. You know, they just like, that guy did this to me. This guy did that. Mm-hmm. That guy did this. Or that woman did this. That woman did that. And she did this to me. And so that's why I'm in this position. Mm-hmm. Instead of taking a look and saying, well, what about me that caused some of these problems to happen?
Yeah.
Because it can't be all them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It can't be, everybody else cannot be the problem every time. I guess they can be if you want to look at it that way, but it doesn't really work.
But, you know, in every single situation, the common denominator is yourself.
Right, exactly. So how can a person start the work? How do you think they can start the work to get themselves out of the ruts that they're in? Meaning they keep repeating the same cycles, but they can't figure out, they can't put their finger on what it is. And with the information we just told them, it starts with yourself. Everything is going to revolve around you. Right. How does a person begin to start to moving in that direction, to figuring out how to even recognize the problems from an outside perspective.
Like from a neutral position.
Yeah.
Well, with anything, when you're in the middle of something, experiencing something like, or a situation you don't want to be in, you're in it. Mm-hmm. So you have all your emotions going on and things like that, which is normal, it's natural, it's fine. But I think the key thing that people can do is to document that. So definitely journaling. I know when we first met and you got me to start journaling, that has been like a huge help into seeing my patterns. You learn even more once you look back at like something you wrote last week. And then you're out of that situation, you're out of that mindset, and you can clearly look at it as an outsider and be like, why was I so mad at this? Or as you know, like things like that. And a more preventative thing that people can do is simplify, because people are running around doing everything. They're constantly bombarding themselves with conversations with all these different people, with music, with going out, with all these things that are outside of themselves. Like, to really sit in stillness and in silence, that's huge. Like just for an hour.
So kind of like meditate.
I guess like that. But yeah, and just notice the thoughts that come up.
I think for a lot of people that's really hard to do because
it's uncomfortable.
I mean, it's nothingness, and people are really, I think it's a fear of nothingness. When I was like single, I always said this because I always recognize that, especially for women, that loneliness is a woman's kryptonite. It's like women hate just nothingness. Like, I mean, like just sit in the house for however long it takes. It could be a day, it could be a week. It could be however long it takes for you to just shake yourself from those previous engagements, in the sense that, because whenever we're dealing with people, we're electromagnetic, meaning that we give and we receive. So whenever you're interacting and dealing with people, you're constantly feeding and receiving information, not just necessarily what that person is saying, but their energy, their vibe, their chemistry. You're receiving all these different internal dialogues and internal codes that people are having with themselves. They're constantly giving those to you, and you're receiving them, and you're giving your internal codes and dialogues to that person. And what tends to happen is, over a collection of time, especially intimate relationships, what tends to happen is a collection of all these different meshes of energies and vibes and conversations and thoughts, and all these different things become kind of internalized and conflicting. And so most people's only way to deal with that is to bring on someone else. And then that continuously fuels that internal, it's kind of like sweeping it under the rug. After you do it for so long, the rug's so high you can't even get in the room. So you got to first just lift up the rug and start getting it out. Some of the best advice I ever got is only one way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. And you can tell me what you think. But I think a person has to go back to as far back as they can remember to start the process of digging through the rubble of previous relationships and previous interactions and engagements, and to figure out how to get there. But you can only really do that through quietness. Yeah. And reflecting. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's easier. I mean, it's not. It's easy, but it's not easy. I think for me, because of my job being over the road and driving a lot, I really do have a lot of time to sit back and kind of reflect and just have quiet time to just think about things. Yeah. And just mind through all the different reasons why I do things. And I think these are some very good things to think about. Like, why do I do whatever? Why did I choose to be with this person? Why did I choose to not be with that person? Why did I say this as opposed to say something else? Why did I feel a way that I feel or felt then? Because we change so much. The way people feel right now is not how people are going to feel in the next 5 to 10 years. So if you think back 5 or 10 years ago, you felt totally different about things. But those things add up. They combine to equate to what you are experiencing right now. Basically, to start off, a person should do what? I still really think it's just the silence. It's the simplifying. It's the isolation. But those are different steps, I think. What do you think those are all in one? Because I think you have to simplify in order to get the quietness.
Yeah. It's a lot. Like, I'm just thinking back of when I was going through.
What were you going through,
all
baby?
that?
Talk to me. What were you going through, baby?
Oh, you were there.
I know I was there, but I'm trying to remember.
I know, right? It was just a lot because you're in a certain space. Mm-hmm. So the transition from going from one space to another.
What space were you specifically in?
I guess just a single mentality.
Okay, which means what? Like, what? Give me your single mentality before me, like in a condensed way.
I know what's best. I can take care of myself. I have complete control. I control everything. Learning, once we met, learning to just, I guess, like, lean in on your guidance and actually. I'm just laughing thinking back because I was a hard-headed woman, my love.
I think you were not as hard-headed as women typically are. I think you were easier.
I know. I feel like I learned quickly, but just thinking like I know best, like I'm right all the time. So getting out of that mentality, it's just honestly looking at yourself and realizing like you don't know everything. That was like a switch that I had to make, and the journaling really did help. I'm probably going to say that over and over again.
Like, do you find
because
yourself...
you know what it is?
What?
Because when you go back and read over it, you can't argue with it. I mean, you're the one that wrote it.
Right. That's true. You can't argue. But I mean, so you actually have points in there where you argue with yourself.
You know how people give you advice and they'll be like, oh, do this, try this, things like that. But when you're actually reading your own words and talking about like, don't ever do this again and all this stuff, how are you going to argue with that? You're like that was you in that situation. So, and then, most people, they're going to be like, oh, well, that was just that one situation. But then as you keep journaling and keep documenting all this stuff, you're going to see over the months that, oh, look, it happened again. And it happened, hey, look, 3 months ago, I wrote that same thing.
Okay, so you begin to see a pattern.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so it's not necessarily like arguing with yourself, but it's
kind of observing yourself from a different perspective.
Like you like it's just fact at that point. Like okay. There's no, like the emotion is completely gone out of it.
But what do you begin to see? I guess
patterns.
Okay, so you do see the patterns that you perpetually think. You're outside of your own thoughts, and you're able to see your way,
right? Your
trends and patterns of thinking,
right?
Okay. That's a very humbling
it's tracking.
And opening.
That's what it is. It's tracking yourself,
right?
Just like you would
what you eat.
Else.
Yeah,
tracking what you eat, tracking
how much
work out,
what you spend,
tracking your money, tracking whatever you're doing in your business and things like that.
I'm trying
to think.
People
need to apply that to themselves.
That's true. I'm trying to think. What do people typically? I guess the most common thing will be money, because it's easy to kind of observe through your banking to see what you spend money on. And like, I know for me, I did it. When I go through it, I'm like, dang, I spent a lot of money at Walmart. Okay. So, I mean, that's definitely some good information that people should start tracking and should start just kind of simplifying. Now, I guess we can get more into what it means to simplify, because it's hard to say, okay, it's hard to know when you have simplified. Like, how would a person know?
Or like what you need to simplify?
Well, how would a person know when they've simplified? Like, how does a person know? And the reason why, because you're decluttering in the process of simplifying. You're removing the things that are not necessary. You're removing things that are not necessary, that are causing more, you use it all the time, overwhelmed. Uh-huh. So when you feel overwhelmed, there's some things that are on your plate that you haven't either dealt with, you haven't focused on to knock it out and get it out the way. And it's just a collection of different things that you have yet to fulfill. Would you say that's true?
Yeah.
But give me some more examples of when, like, for somebody to feel overwhelmed, because I'm trying to get to a point to where people can understand what it means to simplify. Like, how does a person know when they've simplified, just gotten to a point where they can say, okay, now I can breathe, to the point to where now I can see better? Because you got to think, even if people journal, they'll still have so many things. It'll be hard to observe. It'll be hard to see the patterns to observe those things. I know we're here at Relationships and Chill. We'll be helping you guys kind of walk through it a little bit more, because it's really a very important step as it relates to getting to a point in your life where you can observe. And another reason why this stuff is important, because prior to me meeting you is what I had to do. So I was able to see you and know that you would be the ideal woman for me, because my life had been so simplified that the clutter and the being overwhelmed wasn't clouding my judgment, and the need to want to have somebody to take the edge off of life. Because, when you get overwhelmed, you get stressed, you just want somebody to focus in on, so that you don't have to worry about all the other issues that you're having.
Right.
And I think a lot of times in singleness, a lot of people do that. They go for the quick thing or the quick person that's right there, that's telling them everything they want to hear, because they haven't taken the time to simplify and remove a lot of the clutter out of their lives, so that they can recognize that this person is not really genuinely saying this. They're only saying this because they believe that's what I want to hear. Mm-hmm. Because if you haven't done it, simplify, remove the clutter, remove the stress and the being overwhelmed, and then begin the process of digging and being honest and truthful with yourself, you'll never be able to recognize when somebody is not being honest and truthful with you.
That's true.
So this is a very important step to building a great relationship. In order to build a great relationship, you first have to build a great relationship with your internal self.
And how do you do that?
And how do you do that, baby?
Spend a lot of time with yourself.
That's true.
Isolation.
But that's the thing. Like, people don't like isolation.
I know.
They really do not like isolation. They have to be with someone.
Right.
They have to be involved with somebody. They have to have somebody in their lives in order to remove themselves from themselves. Mm-hmm. Because I always look at it like this, baby. Like, if you don't like being with yourself, what makes you think I'm going to like being with you?
Exactly.
Right. So if a woman or a man does not like being with themselves, you can call them boring or square or whatever.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that's really the person that's really ideal. Mm-hmm. Because if I really like myself, like before I met you, of course I had other women, but I really enjoyed being by myself. Even now, when we're apart because of work, like the time away, I enjoy that, because I feel like when I come back, we have that thing, we have something new.
Right. Because
at that point, I've experienced new things that you didn't experience with me, and you've experienced new things that you haven't experienced with me. Mm-hmm. It's good to be able to share new things. Another thing is great for building a great relationship is honest communication. That's my number one thing. She'll tell you. My number one thing is honest communication. And the reason why it's not just communication is because lies are communication. Lies are a form of communication. Not fully telling a person what you feel, how you feel in that moment is a form of communication. It's not honest. It's not truthful. It's not raw. It's not like from the source of who you are. Dialogue. It's still a form of communication. Withholding information is a form of communication. So just to say communication is important, you're not specifying what kind of communication. So that means any communication is important to a relationship, which is so not true. What say ye, young lady?
I'm going to say I agree, but it's just so funny because I was thinking about how you and I were talking, how we were like, oh, maybe in regards to the podcast, like it should just be you and I all the time. Mm-hmm. But then the conversation, it wouldn't be that diverse. Like, yes, we have like our own opinions and like different views on or perspectives on things. Naturally, we're two different people. But just because we've been together for so long and because we're so in sync, so we were even already being like, what? Like, it's just going to be like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean. but I think it's good to hear, like, of course, they're going to hear it from me in my way of saying it, but it's good to hear you say it and have a woman actually kind of agree with it. Because even with Christina and Lynn, you know, she's gonna mainly agree with a lot of stuff because she knows a lot of stuff too. You know what I mean? And she's rationalized it, and she's had time to rationalize why it's true or why it works through the time that I've spent dialoguing with her. But who better than you to have these conversations with? Because like you are the product of what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Our relationship is the product of this information. Like, you would never think, like, this conversation I'm having with her, you would never think that we spend all day together. Like, we are together in a relationship. Like, we're literally, we're talking like friends or people that really just, like, see each other every once in a while.
Yeah.
But we do this every day. Like, this is our everyday life. Relationships are like fingerprints. You can't find the same one on any two people. So every relationship is going to be different, but there's going to be some similarities. And the successful ones or the great ones have a certain code in them. And that code, from what I've seen, is just the interaction between the two people. The type of interaction, I should say.
Right. The
type of interaction is really a genuine one. It's like they're being their true selves.
Right. Yeah.
They're not hiding anything. Those are the great relationships. But in order to get to that point, it kind of goes back to what we're saying, that you have to have that honest dialogue within yourself to be able to recognize someone else who's had that honest dialogue within themselves.
Right.
To be able to... Now, it's a little bit different for a man and a woman, though. I will say that. Because I had to show you and teach you this stuff that you've learned. So all this is a result of our relationship. And that's why relationships are so important, because it really, and if you think about everything that you've gotten in this life, a job, a car, whatever it is, it's because of your relationships. Your relationship with the bank, your relationship with the bank manager, bank teller, your relationship with the manager at your job, the relationship with your friend who hooked you up with the guy you're with, or your relationship with whoever it is.
Yeah.
Everything is about relationships. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create this podcast, Relationships and Chill, because it doesn't just fall under the guise of romantic relationships. That's just a part of life. But
right, that's just one.
This is one aspect of it. But there are so many other relationships that we build based on certain elements that we find similar to each other. So I may have a friend that I only talk to him about basketball with, because our similarities and what we recognize together is basketball. You may have a friend that you talk to exclusively about working out and things that relate to health, but you don't talk to them about other things.
Right.
And so that's a relationship. Part of it, like for me, before I met you, I was always like, I want that woman to be my best friend. You know what I mean? I want her to be, I don't want to just be with somebody for the sake of being with them. I want somebody I can talk to and like literally talk to them about whatever it is. If I see a very, like the other day we were in Kroger. What was it, yesterday? We were in Kroger yesterday. And there was this nice looking young lady. She was
Sparkles?
Yes. We called her Sparkles, right? We saw her at the grocery store at Kroger's. And I was like, my goodness, like she was a nice looking Caucasian woman. Like she had like long hair. She had the sparkly jeans on. And when she walked by, I was like, sheesh. I said, I got to get another look at her, baby. And so my woman was like, what? Like, not like, oh, what are you, like a upset way. It was just like, I can't believe
what are
it.
we doing?
Yeah, like, what are we doing type of thing. And so I like rolled back around, I doubled back around. I came back around. And I was like, man, we were obviously shopping. We were just in there just walking around, but we were obviously shopping. So I spotted her again. And so I was like, okay, we're going down this aisle. I want to get a closer look at this young lady. Now, she was a Caucasian lady, but she was built like a black woman. Like, she was about 6 feet, and she had like long hair, and she had cakes. She had some serious cakes in her back pocket.
She sure did.
I was like, man, we need to go to the bakery because she's stealing them cakes. She stole them cakes straight from the bakery. So, but now, so when we walked by, and I was looking right at her, and my woman was right there with me. So, I mean, but it's that honesty, it's that truthfulness of, because she know I'm not leaving her, I'm not doing nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm just like observing, like this is crazy, like that type of observation. Like, this is a nice looking Caucasian. You don't see this every day. So we ended up leaving, and she was in line. We were in another line, and so we get out the store, and she jumps in like a Mustang. So I was like, okay, there's definitely a guy in the picture. But I come to the conclusion that she had to be a stripper. She just smelled like, she just had like that.
Oh, that's how you came
well,
to
that was part.
conclusion?
Yeah, initially, because she had like a whole bunch of perfume on. Like, you could smell her, like, you can smell the perfume like 10 feet away. Well, I'd say about 5 to 7. Hey, baby, your
nose is better than mine, though.
I try to work on my nose. I know stripper when I smell it. I really don't know stripper when I smell it. I said all that to say, like, you really have to enjoy times with your woman and be genuinely who you are as a man, because it's gonna come out eventually. You know, it's gonna come out, and that real person that you are as a man is gonna exhibit itself. I mean, I can't lie to my woman and tell her I'm not interested, and I don't see other beautiful women or see beautiful women. I can't deny that. But what she has to know and what she has to understand is that she is more important than any of them that I'll ever see. And I think I do a good job of communicating that to her.
Oh yeah, you did a great job.
But I think,
which is why
you don't mind.
I'm so confident in that area, because you make me feel. The only word I'm thinking of right now is safe in that aspect, but secure is the word. Yeah. And
security is one of the biggest things for women, as far as like not having to worry about your woman is. But I think every woman's definition and ideology of security is slightly different, but I think that is a very key factor in making sure that your woman feels secure. And I think it's good for women to express their security in their man. I think that's very important too, that a woman can express that she feels as though she's important enough to him that he won't do anything to jeopardize her in their relationship.
Yeah.
So that's very important. That two people understand how you as a woman feel secure, how I as a man can make you feel secure, to help you understand that why I'm doing things or why I do things or why I don't do things, to secure your security, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, to make you feel secure about the security that you're placing in me, because it's a trust thing. It's a confidence and trust thing that you're relinquishing when you say you feel secure or you trust someone. But yeah, definitely having that honest communication is extremely important. But I think internally, and I had to teach
honest, and I'll add into honest, and I guess I would say like actively honest. I remember you got me one time, because over time I've gotten better at it, but it was definitely a struggle at first to be forthcoming. Like, I would eventually be honest with you, but you had to ask.
Right.
Like, and so I remember you had gotten me to just like constantly
don't think about
it. You will just constantly tell myself, it was speak as
it comes.
As it comes.
Right.
Yeah. I remember just thinking, like, I had, like, just trying to, like, retrain myself, because before I would tell you, I would have, like, this whole internal conversation with myself of how rationalizing things and working it out and coming to my own conclusions. And then by the end of it, convincing myself, like, oh, that wasn't a big deal, or it's not a big deal, as opposed to going through that process with you then it becomes like a whole.
I mean, that's something we're still working on, though.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, we're still
I
working
just
on it because
remember
we
like,
have
it
times.
was crazy, like.
Yeah, I mean, but it's still kind of, it's not as bad.
And like one area of our lives at a time that I'm getting stronger and stronger into. I
That's
think,
the way
I don't
but,
know.
But that's the thing. Like, I'm committed to work with you on whatever it is that, and I know you're the same way. You know, you're committed to work with me on whatever, but you can't work with me on something that you don't know, which is why it's important to have that honest, truthful dialogue. You know what I mean? It's very important to have that friendship. That's why the friendship is important, is because it's that layer that helps you remove the feeling that person is trying to remove you or trying to get out of the situation. But I think a lot of that stems from previous hurts and previous experiences with people that would use issues to get out of a relationship, to say, okay, you do this, so I'm out.
Right.
You know what I mean? As opposed to you're doing this, but I want us to work, so I'm going to work with you and work on us to get you to the point where you can feel secure enough and comfortable enough to express those things as it happens, or whatever I'm needing at that moment. Because it's like, in order for you to do your job at work, you have to know what your job is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They have to give you a description. All the information. Yeah, you need as much information to do your job properly. So it's like, me as a man, I need as much information from her to be able to make sure that I don't feel as though I need another woman, or I need to go here or go there, because she's not giving me what I need to make this relationship work. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's very important to be able to express yourself, but all this really starts within yourself, and being honest with yourself, your shortcomings, the things you need to work on, the things that you said you were going to do but didn't do, the 10 pounds you said you were going to lose but didn't lose, the job that you say you wanted to get but didn't never apply for it. The little things that you said you wanted to do are really possibly the reasons why, part of the reason why you're constantly attracting some of the things that you're attracting, because every little bitty thing that you think is insignificant actually adds to the eventual problems that you will face. Because it's like, if you tell yourself, I want to be whatever, I want to be a great husband or a great wife, the process begins at that moment, because now you've told yourself that you wanted to be that. So now you have all these new fresh ideas that you didn't know were attached to being a great husband or a great wife. Like, okay, I want to start a business, or I want to get in shape, or I want to learn how to cook, or I want to learn how to garden or farm, and then you don't do it. So now you're rejecting the things that you are supposed to be doing to attract or become the person that is a good husband or a good wife. So they're all attached to each other. Once you set that thing in motion and you want the process to start, the things that you attract and the things that you begin to think about that you want to do or need to do or should be doing that are good, that coincide with being a good whatever husband or wife, those things are part of the stepping stones to becoming a great wife or a great husband in order to have a great relationship. Because you can't have something great if you're not great. Mm-hmm. So the process of being great is the process within yourself of saying, this is what I need to do, and then actually following through and do it. Now, do I do it, or do we do it 100% of the time? No, but this is the ideology that we're working towards. We know this. But if you get majority of the things right, then majority of things you attract and become majority of the things that you say you want it to be.
Right.
So I think that's very important. You got anything to add to that?
No. You said that beautifully, my love.
Thank you, baby.
It's always like, I just love it. Like, if people see us having conversations, or even like you having like, I love listening. That's why I was so excited you were doing this podcast, because I love listening to you have conversations with people. And it's the same thing, even the conversation you're having with me, I just love listening to it. And so it's just like, because I'm constantly still learning from you, and so it's just like taking it in, be like, yeah, Yeah. I love it.
Because you know how I am.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel? Do you feel that helps our relationship?
You talking to all these people?
Or the way I am in terms of like, I talk to you like that. Like you said, I talk to, like, even having conversations with you, I have conversations with everybody like that.
I think a similarity that between the both of us is our curiosity in learning and understanding people, as well as ourselves, like with ourselves and one another. So, like my position when I'm hearing you talk to all these people is, like I was saying, like I enjoy listening in on the conversation because I'm learning, and then I'm asking myself same questions and applying like different situations. If I've been in something similar, it's like I enjoy it. Like it's just an interest of mine, and then also listening to you speak and how your logic of you know, whatever you're talking about. So I think that the fact that we have that similar interest, I think helps make us work.
A similar
really
interest
well.
as far as learning about people and different
Learning and understanding about people and ourselves and with one another. Like we're just constantly curious about each other.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It makes you, but what does it do to you? Well, here's another question that kind of highlights what I'm saying. What does it do to you to see me interact and express these different elements to different people?
Excited.
Okay, excited.
I love it because I see you. Like I see you in like doing something that you love. Like I see how you light up and how you like really get into it. Mm-hmm. And so it just is like, it excites me, and I could live off of it. I love it. You see me, you know how I am whenever you're talking to people. Like I don't rush you. I'm like, yeah, keep talking.
Yeah, that's true. You never rush. You never like try to make things speed up or whatever, or even agitated, or like I don't get that from you, because you know this is like naturally who I am.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's great. I think that's great. And so that you believe now in our private time, because I'm still kind of working around the question. In our private time, when we're alone, how are we when we're alone? Let's just talk about that. Like when it's just us two in the house, which is all the time. Obviously, we don't have any kids or anything. But I mean, I mean, as opposed to being out in public, I think we're pretty consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're pretty consistent.
Like I was saying, like the same thing, how that curiosity and how we see one another and like our authentic selves and just enjoy, I guess, observing one another, like doing things like we really love. It's like the same thing when we're at home. You love working on your podcast or researching everything. You know, whatever interest you have going on, like you're really good at that and you enjoy that, and you know you're off doing that thing. And I love watching my TV shows. I love having doing my workouts, working on my business,
which is it's a great segue.
I know, right? Which is helping people with their health and fitness and working with them online.
Coach Elulu.
That's
her. That's my woman.
I used to talking about it like that. But yeah. So if you want to see more on that, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Coach Elulu. But yeah, so like you see me, I enjoy working on that. You enjoy working on your own things. You listen to all, you know, what are they called? Like interviews, like after the games and like, you know, stuff like that. And that's
it's like very simple, right?
It's very simple.
We have a very simplistic life. Like
it's
we're like an old couple. We're like it seems like we've been together for like 50 years,
right?
But it's only been 4, I think a lot of that is because we're simple. I think a lot of that is just because we're simple individually. But I mean, I know for you, when I first met you, you were a young, tender, 24 years old. So you were all over the place. I had to slow you down, woman. I had to literally lasso you down. Yeah. Because I was pretty much done in the beginning. Yeah. I was like, man, I ain't got time for this.
It was close.
Yeah, it was a close call. It was a few close calls that we had. Just, me being, I was 30. I'm 6 years older than her. So me being 30, I was at a place where I was like, I don't really have to go out. And I was in a place where, like I don't have to. And just me as a person, I'm not the type of person that people just be like, come on, let's go over here, let's do this, and let's go out and let's party. Like I don't do none of that. So I was already pretty much settled, and I've always been like that. I'm always the person calling people as opposed to the person being called. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm always that person. Like I'm calling people because I really like my quiet time. So I really hate when people call me and I'm doing something and I'm quiet. I'm like, man, why is this person calling me? And they're like the only person that called me that week. You know what I mean? They like I got like a whole bunch of people calling like every day, unless it's work related. But like friends, I have friends that I ain't talked to in years. But if I talk to them today, it'll be like we never skipped a beat. Mm-hmm. It'll be like we just talked 2 days ago. But I'm a very simple person. I don't really like to get caught up in a lot of stuff. All my friends are really laid back too. I don't really have any friends that that you call your turn up friends where they always ready to go and do something. I don't really have friends like that. My friends are plan ahead friends. I got them kind of friends. I got them kind of friends. Hey man, you gotta let me know a week or two in advance before I can go out. I got them kind of friends. But I'm like that too. Like, unless it's not even, the only person I'm like that with is probably my dad, like Pops, where we'll just pop up and see him and hang out with him. I think my dad is my closest friend, male friend, besides you, of course. I think that's why we work so well together is because our common ground is simplicity. We don't really need a lot.
No.
I think our relationship is secure enough to enjoy the simplicity of being just with you and I, and being in the house. I always wonder, like, why would a person get married or be in a relationship with somebody they didn't want to be with? Because I remember I was at the Y, and I was gonna try, what was it? The
martial arts class.
Yeah, with the old folks.
Tai Chi.
Tai Chi. Yeah, I wanted to be one of them old dudes that be doing Tai Chi in the park. Suit. Yeah, in the tracksuit. I want to be one of them dudes like
the windbreakers
with the windbreaker on, the hat on, just doing Tai Chi in the morning, early in the morning.
Crack of dawn.
The crack of dawn. I want to be one of them dudes. So I went to the Tai Chi class, but the dude didn't show up. So this older lady was out there, and me and her just started talking. And she was like, she's on her second marriage, or maybe it was her third. And she was like, I have to come here just to get away from my husband, just to get away from him. I was like, shh. I was like, that's the last reason I can't. I actually want to do Tai Chi. And she was like, well, you got to have time away from him. I was like, no, you don't. Like, you don't have to. Like, it's more so like stuff you may want to do by yourself. Or, just something that you're interested in but it's not that I don't want to be around you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I know you have shows that you want to watch, but it's not because you don't want to be around me. It's just, that's what you want to watch.
Right.
And I just don't want to watch it.
Yeah. And
so, but I understand, like, sometimes, like, I might want to just be in a room by myself, but no more than about a couple hours. You know what I mean? Like, no more than about an hour or two, I'll be back there. I'll be like, hey, baby, what you doing?
Yeah.
And I gotta have her come.
We like, or even like, I know sometimes it can be longer, but we still like pass by, check in on one another. Mm-hmm. We just need to like give a hug or I don't know.
No, you need that.
I need that.
Yeah. I be chilling.
I like to just
I just be laid back and but I mean. Yeah, I mean, I don't see the reason to be with somebody that you can't be around. And I think a lot of that stems from not having that authentic friendship and not being your authentic, true self. I think a lot of it's just pent up frustration. So if you can't say I'm upset because of this, or you're doing this and I don't like it, then you'll bury it under, you'll sweep it under the rug, and then eventually you're just like, I don't want to just be around them. I'll just go wherever I go to the bar, to the strip club to get away. But it's because there's so many unresolved issues that people don't really converse about. Like not too long ago, the issue I brought to your attention was that you're so busy working on this that you're forgetting what's important, which is our relationship. You know what I mean? Like this, I understand this is a new thing, but I waited about a week to just see if you were gonna like figure it out. I was like, man, this woman is focused. She is locked in. I was like, listen, woman, I get it. You're locked in, but don't forget the most important thing here, which is our relationship.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing here. Like that is a addition to what we have going on, but you can't neglect the main thing to focus on the addition. That's the same thing with children too, but that's a whole nother conversation.
There's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation because that's probably gonna dig into some all kinds of stuff, but that's how it works for us as far as the simplicity of our relationship and the openness and the friendship and the security and the interest, because the interest is what allows us to have the friendship. And that's what allows us to work so well together, is because and I don't feel a way by you having different interests than I do. Like you like to show friends, I don't like to show friends. I like New Girl, you know what I mean? You put me on a New Girl, I mean, I like that show, I can watch that show with you. But that's the beauty of having separate interests. Right. But the majority of our interests are similar. So it makes us really good friends.
I agree. Yeah. I think too, what helps our relationship and keep it so strong is that we both understand that it's alive, in the sense like it's this living thing that's constantly evolving and changing, and it's always going to be that way, as opposed to thinking of a relationship as a goal that you've reached, like an end result kind of thing. So I think that helps, because then it just forces you to actively think about it and actively participate in it. When you understand like it's just this,
it's progressive.
Yeah.
As opposed to just something that like you said, most people just get into relationships and think that's it. Like
okay,
we're
I'm
together
married now.
Yeah, we're together
or have a boyfriend now, or
and these are the set things that we have to do. You know what I mean? And that's it. There's no growth. There's no progression. It's just we're basing everything on 5 years ago or a year ago when we first got into a relationship or we first got married.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, I'm a different person now. Like I said before, the person you were 5 years ago is totally different from the person you are now. And 5 years from now, you're going to be a totally different person than you are now. So there's going to be growth and there's going to be change, and there's going to be things you like now that you won't like in 5 years, or things that you liked 5 years ago you don't like now. So if those things are true about you knowing that within yourself, imagine dealing with somebody who has no clue of your changes or hasn't observed the changes you've made in the last 5 years. Most people don't even observe their own changes in 5 years. They just think they're the same person.
Right.
And so they're basing their lives on who they used to be. And there's no progression. But then that is stagnant in and of itself. So naturally the relationship is going to be stagnant. And then most people just end up just fading out, getting a divorce, breaking up, and just leaving the relationship where it is, because it's literally dead. Yeah. Because there was no growth. And it's just like a life. Like as a human, we have our lives that we start off in an infancy stage or a fetus stage. Is growing. It's growing and it's being incubated, where you guys are like constantly spending time together. You're always around each other. You're protected. But as the relationship grows and is birthed into an actual relationship, then now the process starts of strengthening up those legs and those muscles so that you can walk.
Yeah.
And you can run and you can talk. You know, all those different things are being worked on. And those are the different aspects of the relationship, the friendship, the truthful communication, the dialogue, the interest, the time, the honesty, security, the acceptance, all the different things that make a relationship great. Those are the things that are being developed. But most people stop growing. They stop pretty much around that point.
Yeah.
And they never progress. So they have really a child-like relationship. It's very basic. There's no aspects
regardless
to it.
of how long they've been together.
Regardless of how long they've been together, they have a very generic relationship because it hasn't developed past that into like the adolescent phase. It's still in the childhood phase. And so then you start simplifying in the complexities of the relationship, meaning that as you progress and I progress, we have to stay right here in pocket and have those honest communication moments and know where we are at any given moment. Matter of fact, somebody posted on Facebook that they believe that a relationship should have like a review every 30 days or 90 days. A performance review. And I said daily.
Yeah.
You really need a daily performance review every day in a relationship because it changes so fast. Interest changes so fast. And it's so subtle how it changes that people don't even realize that something had changed until 2 years from the change, you know, or 6 months from the change. Because you can have people madly in love and then next thing you know, they're not together anymore. You're like, what happened? Like, why y'all ain't together? And that's because they neglected to take into account the things that person was trying to communicate about their change. They forgot to observe those things and add themselves into that life because two people are coming together to create one life. That's what a relationship is. It's two lives being blended into one. With, you know, of course, there's going to be some things, like I said, you may be interested in some things. I may be interested in some different things, but it's good because it adds to my overall perspective, which can be used to make our relationship stronger as long as we communicate with each other and not other people. Honestly communicate. So like I said before, people have these conversations and these problems with other people that are outside of the relationship and strengthen the bonds with those people when that situation or that issue was meant to strengthen and grow the relationship between the two people in that relationship. But bringing a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth wheel into the relationship is only going to weaken the main relationship if it's not secure enough and not pass through that person first. So we're going to kind of get to the end of this because we can talk about this kind of stuff all night. But what are some of the things that women can do as single women that are looking to meet a man that they can have a great relationship with?
I think just understanding. So, like, sometimes I'll think about this, like how I was before, like what I would tell myself to like prepare for you. And again, it's the isolation for sure and understanding who and what we are is big because a lot of women, we've talked about this before, like a lot of people, I was the same too, like we're always like just trying to imitate like male behavior and not just understanding and coming to grips with who and what we are like as a female and how we're designed and what that means. With the isolation, like understanding as a female, we are designed to take things in and withhold them and grow them
a lot more than men because we all are electromagnetic, so we do take and give. So.
Right, but even more so as women. So being very, very
observant.
Well, yeah, that and being very strict with what you allow in your space, like what you allow yourself to listen to, expose yourself to, like be very, very strict with the kind of exposure that you allow yourself to be around.
Like what? Going to the clubs?
Yeah, going to the club. Be more aware of like what the lyrics, when I go back to like songs I used to listen to, like, this is what I was listening to. Like, this is what was constantly
That's
being
true.
put into my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh my God.
Because the words are the power. The words are the seeds.
Yeah.
For thought seeds.
Yeah.
Which
So
eventually attract seeds. So whatever you're thinking about, whatever you perpetually think about is what you will perpetually think. Thoughts will eventually shape your reality.
right. So be very cautious of the company you keep, the surroundings that you put yourself into, just isolating yourself so that you start to really understand who you are, what you need to feel, again, secure and loved, and also to understand the boundaries that help you stay true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one other thing I was going to say. The journaling too, like some type of tracking. Oh my gosh. Saying no. Learn to say no. No. That was like my big thing, because just the space that I was in as, early 20s, female, a lot of women, we are people pleasers, and we just want to say, like anytime someone want to ask me for a favor or go to a dinner or attend this or do this or that, like learning to say no. And oh my gosh, now it feels so good to say no. I remember my family was like shocked when I was making that transition. Like, wait, you're not going to go to that family event? Like, this and this. And like just really learn what you need to like recenter yourself, and then don't let anything distract you from it.
I mean, I agree. It's tough that's why I say it's different.
It's tough.
For
like,
women.
I know I can say it like
now,
but shoot, tell me that back then. I'd be like, huh?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it is the relationship too. I mean, our relationship kind of helped you to see that, and that's why it's so important that men really get this type of information. So any men that please have them listen, because this is very important, because men haven't been taught, especially black men, we haven't been taught how to love, how to be in relationships. Mm-hmm. We haven't been taught how to communicate and express. And you can listen to my episode called Man Talk, where the guys, I posed the question, are black men kind of stifled from communicating? And overwhelmingly they said yes. And it was a room full of black men, about 6, 7, 8 of us, and like everybody consensuously, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's a good word. It felt good. But they all said that yes, black men haven't really been taught how to communicate. So if you can't really connect with that internal individual that's living inside of you, it's going to be hard to connect with anybody else on the external. Mm-hmm. And that's all communication is tapping into your true self and how you really see things and how you really feel and how you really view things in that moment, and being able to express those things verbally. And if you can't do that, then it's going to be hard to be in a relationship, which is why a lot of us black men have problems in relationships. It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to be expressive. It's hard to be genuine. It's hard to be truthful, because there is that disconnect between what is true, what is genuine, what is truthful, what is honest, what is all these different things, what is vulnerability, what is it? Like, we don't know what it is. So how can we be vulnerable when we have never experienced it or never expressed it or never even thought about it, to be aware to say, am I being vulnerable or not? And that's why a lot of women have to work with men. You guys have to work with us men, specifically black men, on how to be vulnerable, how to communicate and not feel feminine about it. I had to work on it, but I did. It's actually a masculine thing to be able to communicate and express yourself very well. So the roles have really reversed, whereas before it was really like the man was more expressive where the women were more quiet. But now you got the women more expressive and the men more quiet. And so that causes a lot of different problems, because the men feel stifled and more inadequate to be able to explain and express themselves, because they'll feel like they'll feel weak, and they don't want to appear weak to their woman, because then they feel like that woman won't confide in them as their leader. So appearing weak to a woman in any facet, whether it be communication, whether it be in physical strength, whether it be in financial strength, whatever it is, a man will quickly shy away from it, which causes him to not be truthful with you. So a lot of women think that men are just all this way or that way. But there's so many different facets and so many layers to it that it's going to take us a couple episodes to really break it down. And I know this one has been going on for quite a while, and I apologize, but this has been so good to have me and my woman on the same conversation. But for single people, I just want to say, just to kind of tie it all in, you know, the best things, unless you wanted to, I'm going to let my woman speak if she has something to say about it. But
what's that? Oh, I was just thinking further into my point about be very cautious and disciplined about what you allow, like what you expose yourself to. And then I was thinking, like, I was just going off of the one thing where it just like clicked for me, where I was like, okay, it was, I'm still not very good with scripture, but the one where it's like, guard your heart or something like that.
Guard your heart, for out of it flows the issues of life. Yeah.
So, and then you had made me realize like all the things, like the different ways to guard my heart, which was basically anything that is able to enter within me. So it's
the ear gate and the eye gate.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you hear, what you see, and what you eat.
It's really all the five senses. They're all gates to get into the internals, because if you remember correctly, when Eve ate of the fruit, it opened up her eyes. Mm-hmm. Or Adam and Eve, it opened up their eyes, which is an internal spiritual thing. And they accomplished that through food. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other, like 10 episodes.
That I think too, that's part of why our relationship is so great too.
Yeah.
Our diet.
Yeah.
A diet is very important to having that bond with the person. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What you eat is very important. So anyway, anything else, baby?
No.
Okay, you sure? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so just to tie it all up, singles, I think singles and married folk are in a relationship, whatever it is. It's all similar. It really just starts from the inside. And whatever you have going on inside will reflect and project out to the outside. So be very careful and very, very mindful of what you're allowing into your. It's just like food. I mean, what you allow into your body is what's going to affect your body. So that means it's going to affect your experience. Meaning, if you eat something that makes you sick, your whole day is shut down, or days are shut down because of something that you ate. And that's just talking about actual food. So we're talking about internal things that you ingest mentally, things you're listening to, things you read, things you see, things you observe. Physically affect you internally, which in turn affects your physical experience. So if you're taking in stuff that's not good for you, that's affecting your spirit and causing you to feel whatever kind of way, we eventually become desensitized, and that desensitization creates another problem, in the sense that now things that are supposed to affect us don't affect us anymore. We become kind of hardened, and it's hard to get through a hardened heart. So you want to keep as many distractions out of your life as possible, and guard your ears, guard your eyes, guard your mouth, guard everything. Guard everything, because it will affect you in a way that will be contradictory to what you believe you should have. So when you look at things and say, I should be here or I should be there in my life, and you're not there, or have not gotten there or progressed in those areas, you got to look at what you're bringing in, what you're allowing in, because that thing that you're allowing in is the serpent in your garden, and that can mess up the whole world. So, but anyway, that's been this episode of Relationships and Chill. I just want to, like I said, thank you guys for listening. I know this has been a very long episode, but it's been very engaging. I think we've given out a lot of things to think about. I know my mentor gave me a lot of things to think about when I observed their relationship, and and I wouldn't accept anything less. I didn't want anything less than what I saw. And what I saw, I've gotten in my version of it, which is something that I don't want to ever lose. So that's been this episode of Relationships and Chill. I am your host, R. Anthony, with my lovely wife, who is more than a co-host. She's she's me in a different form.
Oh, yeah.
She's the host, like I am the host.
The other side of the host.
Yeah, she's the other flip side of
Thanks for having me, my love.
Hey, baby, I appreciate you coming on to Relationship. Listen, you always welcome back. You welcome back whenever you feel as though you need to come back and you got something to say. So thank you for coming on, my beautiful woman. I appreciate that. Listen, even the children saying they happy about that. Even the children happy about that one. Now, this is one the kids can hear, but definitely you want to invite as many people. Let us know your thoughts. But tell people about our show. If you got anything from it, please feel free to comment, leave some feedback, and like, subscribe, share with all the people that you think might get some kind of benefit off of this. Because that's our aim. Our aim is to help relationships grow, and we want to make relationships great again. We really do. Our aim is to make them great, to make you have the person that you love and want to be with for the rest of your life, and not have to, worry about it, not have to think about it. But, we want to always be that beacon of hope for a great relationship. So thank you for tuning in. It's been, R. Anthony, it's been real. It's been good. It's been real good. You guys catch us on the next one, and we out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Relationships and Chill. For more information on cultivating the relationship of your dreams, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Relationships and Chill, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Relationships and Chill TV. You can also visit our website at www.relationshipsandchill.com. Together, let's make relationships great again.